Hi there, I'm the _twig, and I like analysing game rules. We've just had the first major content drop of D&D 2024, and it ranges from probably just the flat out best option to what is even the point, with a little bit of I kinda wish you just hadn't bothered on the side. Actually, that's excessively negative. There are several things in Heroes of Faerun that I do actually quite like, and in particular, Zhentarim Tactics. This feat is cool as hell, and I've genuinely spent an entire week looking at all of the different things that it lets you do with a rogue in particular. Zhentarim Tactics boosts Dex or Charisma and gives a floating expertise. But the real draw is that whenever someone hits you in melee, they trigger an opportunity attack. And that means that if you're a rogue, you get a second sneak attack. It does have a prerequisite, meaning that you must pick Zhentarim Ruffian as your origin feat, but this is also pretty decent, allowing you to give your entire party advantage on initiative if you have heroic inspiration, and giving you advantage on the damage rolls of opportunity attacks, which you're getting lots of thanks to tactics, so it synergizes really nicely. Importantly, unlike Savage Attacker, this exploit opening feature doesn't say that you only get advantage on the weapon dice, so it lets you roll all of your sneak attack dice twice as well. It's a not insignificant boost to damage, and more importantly, a massive boost to consistency, meaning that you're incredibly unlikely to low roll, and you become even less likely to low roll if you join my Patreon. One of the benefits of giving me money is that you get blessed by the dice gods. I think that technically makes me a church, so I don't have to pay US tax now. Suck it, YouTube! Now that I have that power, I'm appointing SK, Mark Rainbow, Jaleli, and Precipice as my clergy. None of you have to pay taxes anymore either. There are a lot of different ways to build a Zhentarim Tactics rogue, but in this video I'm going to be showing you one of the most basic variants so you can see the absolute flaw of its capabilities. And then for the second half of the video I'll explain a bunch of ways that you can customize and upgrade it to suit your specific character, playstyle, and table. I won't be picking a single damage boosting option, and several things I do will actually reduce the damage, yet all the way through it will remain remarkably effective. That's enough hyping though, let's look at the actual build. So, we're going human. Human is unfortunately easily the best option here, because Resourceful gives you heroic inspiration to charge Zhentarim Ruffian's initiative advantage, and you also get a second origin feat, so that you aren't stuck with just Ruffian. I'm also taking Tough, because one of the requirements of Zhentarim Tactics is that you must be in melee, so I'll be taking more damage than Rogue normally would. The extra HP will mitigate that. For our stats, 17 in Dex is fairly obvious for a rogue, and then 16 in Con, again for the HP, and 14 in Wiz for better perception and saves. The last 2 points can go anywhere, but I'm just throwing them in Int because why not? Levels 1, 2, and 3 are very vanilla. We're just doing a standard Rapier Rogue, which isn't how you pronounce that. I've also grabbed Hand Crossbow Mastery just in case I need the range. This is definitely not the best loadout, 2-weapon fighting is way better, but I want to keep this incredibly simple. For our subclass, I'm going to pretend that we don't have one. I want to show you the flaw, the worst that this build gets. You can take literally any subclass and immediately make this build better. At 4th level, we then get Zhentarim Tactics, the entire point of this build. Right, that was an incredibly quick first 4 levels, and I'm sure that you've noticed that there are some brightly coloured damage columns, so let me explain what they're all about. First up, the grey column. This is my standard damage benchmark. A Fighter 1, Rogue 19, using a heavy crossbow with True Strike, Archery, and Steady Aim. This is what I consider to be your roughly average damage. If you're above it, great. If you're below it, less great. If you want to know why I think this is about the average, it's empirically derived from around 40 different builds made by Trian Monk, and I have a video all about it if you're interested in the maths behind D&D. Now though, we have these green, purple, and yellow columns. A Zhentarim Tactics build is innately reliant on its ability to get opportunity attacks. How frequently you can do that changes your damage calculations significantly, so I've made 2 different assumptions. In green, we're assuming that you get an opportunity attack 50% of the time, and in yellow, we're assuming that you get an opportunity attack 100% of the time. Realistically, I think that you're most likely to fall somewhere in the middle, but these 2 columns are sort of like your best and worst case scenarios. Finally, purple in the middle is assuming 50% opportunity attacks, but you have permanent advantage. Now, on the left side of each of these colour blocks is the actual average damage that you can expect to do. On the right side though is the percentage showing how much higher or lower than the benchmark we are. For example, at level 4 in the green 50% opportunity attack column, 15.25 damage is about 2.9% more than 14.82. These percentages are what I want you to focus on the most. And if I had to pick a most important column, it would probably be the purple advantage 50% column. There are a hell of a lot of ways to get consistent advantage in D&D, especially on the rogue, and the grey benchmark is also built assuming permanent advantage. With all of that explanation out of the way, holy hell is Zhentarim Tactics a huge bump. In our green and purple columns, thanks to how it combos with Sneak Attack and Zhentarim Ruffian, this single feat represents almost a 65% increase in DPR. And in the yellow 100% trigger rate column, it's a 120% boost to damage. Absolutely insane for just one feat. Oh, I will say for clarity that I'm assuming you always get Sneak Attack. Now, 5th level. This is the only flashy thing in the entire build, a single level dip in Fighter. This is not an especially obvious dip, in fact as you can see it makes our percentages go way down because we're not progressing our Sneak Attack. This is a dip that I am taking for the purpose of generating discussion. What this does is it gives us a shield, 3 more masteries, second wind healing, and a fighting style. Second wind is the easiest to explain. We're frontline combat, we're getting hit, healing is nice. Masteries are next. They give us a lot of versatility with the ability to fight at long range with the heavy crossbow and longbow, potentially even using the push mastery to push people off of ledges, and the dagger's nick and thrown properties combo well with the hand crossbow, meaning that we can do 2-weapon fighting from mid-range, or even just dual-wield daggers if we have to. What's most interesting is the shield and fighting style, for which I will be taking defense. Now, why am I doing that? Zhentarim Tactics requires you to get hit. Surely increasing your AC is an anti-synergy. I disagree. With Zhentarim Tactics, you want to get hit exactly once. Any additional hits and you are just taking damage for no reason. Let's say that with our previous 16 AC, the enemies had a 60% chance to hit us, and between them they attacked us 3 times. That gives them just over 90% chance to hit at least once and trigger Zhentarim Tactics, but around 65% chance to hit at least twice and waste our HP. This fighter dip bringing us up to 19 AC reduces the chance to hit at least once by a little to just above 80%, but now we're getting hit twice only around 40% of the time. We are wasting way less HP, so you can stay up for longer. Remember, you can't make opportunity attacks whilst unconscious. Increasing your defense is absolutely mission critical to this build, and should be one of your main considerations. Zhentarim Tactics brings the damage, you need to care about the defense. By the way, if the enemy does miss you and you don't get your Zhentarim Tactics trigger, that's absolutely fine too, because it means that the enemy effectively didn't do anything on their turn. Okay, going back to Rogue, we get an upgrade to Sneak Attack, Uncanny Dodge, which is unusable because our reaction is taken by Zhentarim Tactics, and Cunning Strike, which is actually incredibly important to us because of Withdraw. You know what I just said about wanting to get hit exactly once? This is another tool to do that. Because the Zhentarim Tactics opportunity attack will activate Sneak Attack, it means that we can forego one of those Sneak Attack dice to move away from the enemy, and if they've already moved a significant amount on their turn, they now can't get to us to continue attacking. It won't come up all the time, but it is a powerful off-turn movement option which can really help preserve HP in certain circumstances. Rogue 6 is just more expertises, so isn't relevant to the video, but is very nice. Remember that Zhentarim Tactics also gives us a floating expertise, so we're now up to 5 skills, and one of those we can change every long rest. Then Rogue 7 gives us reliable talent for even more effective skills and evasion, which is very important for helping us to preserve our HP. On the subject of better saves, for our Rogue 8 feat, we're taking Mage Slayer for that mental save protection. We then get a subclass feature and Sneak Attack improvement at Rogue 9, and then Sentinel at Rogue 10 to round out our 20 decks. This is again a super important feat. It gives us 2 main things. First, in order to get Sneak Attack we either needed to have advantage or have someone else standing next to the enemy. If someone else was standing there though, the enemy could just attack our friend instead of us to avoid triggering Zhentarim Tactics. Not anymore, because now that triggers Sentinel instead. No matter who our enemy attacks, or even if they try to disengage and move away, we are getting that opportunity attack. Second, if we hit the opportunity attack, the target drops to 0 speed. That means that Cunning Strike Withdraw is now always active. After the first attack, we can opportunity attack them, drop them to 0 speed, then use Cunning Strike Withdraw to run away and avoid taking unnecessary hits. At level 12 or Rogue 11, we get more Sneak Attack, and then another feat at Rogue 12, which is once again a defensive option in Resilient Constitution. Put a pin in that, we'll talk more about it when we get to Rogue 15. Level 14, more sneak attack and subclass feature, then devious strikes at level 15, which is cool, but nowhere near as impactful to this build as withdrawal was. Then at rogue 15, we get slippery mind. With slippery mind and resilient constitution, as well as our base rogue proficiencies, we are now proficient in all saving throws except for strength. Furthermore, evasion means that we take no damage if we pass a dex save and only half if we fail, and Mage Slayer gives us legendary resistance against mental saves. We of course also have 19 AC before considering magic items, 164 HP at level 16, which is basically equivalent to a barbarian with +3 con, and off-turn movement every single turn for the cost of 1d6 less damage. This character has a huge amount of defense, but Zhentarim Tactics means that their damage is still perfectly reasonable, despite making actively suboptimal decisions and not taking a subclass at all. It gets even better at Rogue 16 because +2 con puts us up to 191 HP, and just look at all of those saving throws as we get to +6 proficiency. Running through the last few levels, 96 sneak attack and a subclass feature, elusive means that we can never be attacked at advantage for yet more defense, rogues actually get quite a lot of good defensive features, and then finally at level 19 rogue and 1 fighter we get 10d6 sneak attack and the boon of recovery, giving us an effective HP of 366. There are ancient dragons with less HP than that. Looking at the purple column, assuming we only get Zhentarim Tactics to trigger 50% of the time, but we have permanent advantage, which is not that unachievable, we spend the majority of our career at around 10 to 15% more damage than the average, having taken no subclass and no damage boosting feats or features except Zhentarim Tactics. That is how incredible this feat is. Even the bare minimum is good. Now though, let's discuss how you can make it even better. So our first port of call is filling in that subclass. Assassin doesn't really benefit this build, and Scion is already based around reactions, so that leaves Soul Knife, Arcane Trickster, and Thief. Soul Knife has got easily the best damage, and it's not especially close. This graph has our average damage benchmark True Strike Rogue, and the subclassless build that I just showed off. If we do the exact same build, but pick up Soul Knife and swap the level 5 fighting style over to dueling, our damage absolutely shoots up. The original build's purple 50% with advantage line mostly sat around 10 to 15% above the benchmark, but just picking up Soul Knife and dueling puts you all the way up to 45 to 60% above. However, you do sacrifice 3 AC. All of your other defenses remain intact, it's just your AC that drops. If you remember, by level 6 we have Cunning Action Withdraw, and by level 13 we have Sentinel, meaning that the move away is always online. -3 AC isn't the end of the world. Next is probably the safest option, Arcane Trickster. Find Familiar is actually incredible on this build, although honestly that's just standard. Find Familiar is incredible on every build. Anyway, on this specific build, it allows you to put something like a rat in your pocket, meaning that there is always an ally within 5 feet of your melee targets, so sneak attack is definitely always online. It's no longer just an assumption that you'll find a way of doing it. Potentially even more potent though is the combo of using a bat, Find Familiar's ability to share senses with a bonus action, and then casting Fog Cloud. Thanks to your bat's blind sight, you can still see, but your enemies can't. That means that you really do have permanent advantage, but more importantly, enemies have permanent disadvantage to attack you, and they can't target you with anything which requires sight. Remember what I said before, Zhentarim Tactics brings the offense, you need to care about the defense. Casting Fog Cloud takes up your action though, meaning that you can't attack for your first turn sneak attack. That's where the Thief comes in. If you are in a campaign where you can guarantee specific magic items by crafting through some sort of shop like a Westmarch, or just by asking your DM in a home game, Thief is the king, thanks to a wonderful little uncommon item called the Ever-Smoking Bottle. As a bonus action, right from level 3, the Thief can uncork the bottle and make a 60-foot emanation of heavy obscurement. You need to get blind sight from somewhere else, likely either the blind fighting style or the Skulker feat, but this thing is so good. Thief has even more options as well, thanks to their fast hands. If you take the fighter dip like I did and get a shield, Thief can actually don or doff it as a bonus action, meaning that they can rapidly switch between range, defensive melee, or even 2-weapon fighting if they need a burst of damage. If there's something like a monk in the party running around grappling enemies, they can also tie those enemies up with rope to restrain them, giving another way to generate advantage. But the real draw is their ability to use other magic items, like the Ever-Smoking Bottle. There's loads of good examples, but I'm going to specifically point out the Tentacle Rod. 3 additional attacks with a +9 modifier, which restrains and does damage over time if all 3 attacks hit, for just your bonus action. That is crazy. Thief is definitely campaign dependent, but in the right campaign, it's absolutely bonkers on the Zhentarim Tactics build. Now, I do want to quickly cover something that the keener-eyed of you may have spotted. Whilst talking about the Arcane Trickster, I did not recommend True Strike. On probably 90% of Zhentarim Tactics builds, True Strike is a complete trap. This is because True Strike forces you to use your spellcasting modifier for the attack and damage rolls, but you cannot use it with your Zhentarim Tactics opportunity attack, so you also have to have a high strength or dexterity. In order to effectively use both your action and your reaction, you would need to have both a high mental stat and a high physical stat, which is typically very hard to do without major sacrifices. If you don't have both, and one of those stats is just a +2 or something, then your damage likely goes down when you try to build it around True Strike. Oh, and if you're thinking that you can just use Warcaster to replace your opportunity attack with casting a spell, that actually doesn't work either. Warcaster specifically triggers when a creature moves away from you, which is not how we're getting our opportunity attacks. When using Zhentarim Tactics, that opportunity attack is always just a normal opportunity attack. Next section, Multiclassing. There are many options, but once again, Zhentarim Tactics brings the offense, you care about the defense, and this is what you need to target with your multiclasses. First up, straight classing Rogue. This is absolutely a viable option. Earlier access to evasion, feats, slippery mind, as well as boosted damage from sneak attack, progression, and whatever your subclass gives you. This is perfectly fine and you can do very well with it. If you do want to multiclass though, when should you do it? After much thought, my answer is as early as possible. Level 5, immediately after getting Zhentarim Tactics, is perfect, but you can go even earlier if you want to. The reason for this is that most multiclasses have their defensive features really early, and unlike something like a fighter or a wizard, Rogue doesn't suffer too much by delaying level 5. The next question though is what should you multiclass into? I think that there are 3 good dip options: Fighter, Barbarian and Warlock, and a few more deep multiclass options for very specific builds. Fighter is our most basic option. You only need level 1 for those 3 extra masteries, shield and fighting style. I've already explored a lot of the stuff that you can do with the Fighter 1 dip in this video, but to put it all in one place, it realistically all comes down to that fighting style choice. Defense is the obvious defensive choice, which remember is what we care about. Dueling is the damage option, especially on soul knife builds, but if you can use it well, blind fighting is the star of the show. If you're a thief with an ever-smoking bottle, you really want blind fighting, for permanent advantage and the defenses of being effectively invisible at the cost of 1 bonus action. Barbarian is a bit odd because all of their features key off of strength. You can't use reckless attack if you're using dexterity based attack rolls, and rage doesn't do extra damage unless you're using strength, and most of the subclasses rely on it too. Whilst you absolutely can make a strength based rogue, attacking with a rapier still triggers sneak attack, Zhentarim Tactics does not boost strength. That puts you significantly behind for quite a long time. The conclusion that I have therefore come to is to not use strength. Remember, Zhentarim Tactics brings the damage. You care about the defense. You just go Barbarian 1 for rage, a shield, and probably a boost to your AC because you've got such high constitution. Use a bonus action to get those resistances up, and then completely forget about reckless attack and the rage damage. They don't matter. I've done a lot of maths over the monster manual, and I believe that rage is probably worth about plus 50% HP on average. That's a lot. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum is the Warlock. Warlock is the only multiclass that I'm bringing up which does not give you an innate defense boost. Warlock gives you 3 potential things. Firstly, Pact of the Blade allows you to make charisma based attacks with your weapons. This is that 10% of builds which should use True Strike. Secondly, Pact of the Chain is a really easy way to get access to Find Familiar, and as we've discussed, Find Familiar is fantastic. Finally, Lessons of the First Ones gives you access to more Origin feats. This opens up the doors to other species like the Dwarf, giving you extra HP, or potentially something like the Aasimar, who has resistance to both Necrotic and Radiant. Or you could just get more good Origin feats like Musician and Alert. I will warn you that in most cases the Warlock dip is a strict negative to your defense, because you're now focusing on Charisma, not Dexterity. So I'd probably recommend triple classing with Fighter for medium armor and shields. But Warlock is definitely intriguing. Armor of Agathis is also very interesting, since theoretically it should synergize incredibly well with Zhentarim Tactics, both of which do extra damage when you get hit in melee. However, I unfortunately can't find a way to get enough high level spell slots to make it actually viable. The last thing that I want to talk about is the potential for a deep multiclass to get extra attack. I would probably only consider this on a Soul Knife build. Because of a weird way that Psychic Blaze and Nick interact when you have extra attack, a 5-level multiclass in something like Fighter actually boosts you from 2 attacks per turn all the way up to 4 attacks per turn. And there's a fairly basic weapon juggle that you can do to make it so that every single one of those attacks, as well as your Zhentarim Tactics opportunity attack, benefits from dueling. Let's bring the graphs up again. As a reminder, we have our average damage line in white, our subclasses line in solid colour, and our Soul Knife 19 Fighter 1 as a dotted line. If you go Soul Knife 15 Champion 5, you instead move over to this dashed line. Whilst you lose out initially due to not progressing your sneak attack, when it properly kicks in Tier 3, your damage increases by about 10%. 62 damage per round at level 13 is more than the average character is doing at level 20. This is a ridiculously high damage build, on par with the Berserker Barbarian. As for what you should multiclass into to get that extra attack, honestly any of the martials work. They all give different things that are good for you, whether that's Rage, Champion's crit rate, Hunter's Mark, Smite for the crits, or something else. Actually, Monk isn't that great here. Probably don't go Monk. And that there is an entire video about how one feat interacts with one class. God damn is Zhentarim Tactics cool. It isn't just for Rogue, by the way. Basically every melee martial can make use of it, especially Rangers, Moondruids, and Charisma-based Paladins. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives into really specific things, here's 21 minutes dedicated to explain the mechanics of punching people in the face. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this around, all of that jazz. Bye!